I hate videos like these. It's why I have the sun shining in it. It makes me all jolly. Well, hello there, everybody. I'm Photo Dave. This is Wicked. That's Amara Jade that I instantly regretted purchasing because she doesn't come with extra heads or hands to make her more photogenic. And I have an Indiana Jones figure en route to the castle right now. And the reason I say that is it is April 27th, 2023, as I'm recording this. And those are the 3 purchases I've made thus far from Hasbro. I honestly don't even have anything on pre-order from Hasbro at this point. And I bring that up because I myself am at a crossroads because of the things that Hasbro's been doing lately. We're going to talk about one of them that really has me thinking hard about how much I want to support Hasbro. And then we're going to go a little lighter and talk a little bit more about the Hasbro and Mattel merger that I did a short on yesterday. But with that, I only had a minute, and I'm thinking I might have missed a couple things. So, stick with me here. We'll try not to make this too dramatic, because, it's a day after everybody talked about this anyway, so it's not like it's going to get tons of hits, but I really do think it's an important thing to talk about, and an important video for people to check out, if they haven't checked out all the others. And now I'm rambling. Let's just get to this first part, shall we? This first part is the downer, and I first heard about it from Retroblasting on YouTube, who very rarely gets anything wrong when he talks about this kind of stuff. But even so, I wanted to fact check a lot of it, and it seems he was pretty much accurate. There are a few things that we don't necessarily know. We don't actually know how many times Hasbro tried contacting a YouTuber by the name of Old School MTG, and here's what actually went down. Wizards of the Coast, which is a division of Hasbro, sent the Pinkertons, hardcore stuff, union busters, people that you just don't want to deal with, to Old School MTG's house because, get this, because this seems insane if you're rational, because he got a hold of some Magic the Gathering cards a couple weeks early. Yeah, I'm blown away. Now, some of the facts that we do have, Wizards of the Coast did admit to sending the Pinkertons. This person, Old School MTG, did buy these from, I believe, maybe a store in his area. I don't know. He ordered a set of cards that weren't supposed to be the ones he got, and that store apparently, and this is a part that we're shady on, a little gray here, we don't know for sure, apparently just sent the wrong case. So what was happening was, I believe one of the cases of cards was called something, and the other case was called the same thing, but had the word Aftermath behind it. So my thought is, if it's me, I probably could have gotten confused about that and maybe sent out the wrong case. So my gut is this was an honest mistake. What we do know is that Old School MTG got these. He did figure out that they weren't out yet and decided to report on them. And he said because people are constantly reporting on early Magic the Gathering cards all the time, I guess, on YouTube. So he wouldn't think, or at least what he says is he didn't think that would be a big deal. Those are the things that we know, and a little bit of gray area. Where I think things got insane, one, Wizards of the Coast did tell him how sorry they were, and they would reimburse him and all this stuff. What got insane, I think, is the fact that for having some cards early, the Pinkertons were sent in. These are pretty rough and tumble dudes. They're armed. They're basically a scare tactic. That's who these guys are at this point. It's kind of mind-boggling to me, actually, that in a time when we're theoretically supposed to be more civilized, the Pinkertons even still exist. But such is the way of the world. But at a time when we're supposed to be fairly civilized, it's even more baffling that a corporation like Hasbro would decide it's okay to send the Pinkertons. Now, what I've ascertained, big words, I like big words, I don't use them enough because I don't know many of them, is that Wizards of the Coast has done this before. They have sent out the Pinkertons. That's just kind of their modus operandi, their MO, if you will. Good Lord, I'm sounding smart today. But that's just kind of how they've operated since it sounds like, and this is maybe it is speculation, I don't know, but it sounds like they've operated this way since before they were acquired by Hasbro. So it is possible things slipped through the cracks and Hasbro didn't know this was how they operated. I don't know how that could happen, but I suppose it's possible. Either way, Wizards of the Coast is owned by Hasbro, and this falls directly on Hasbro to issue something, to try and say something like, whoa, this ain't cool, this isn't what's supposed to happen, because it's not what's supposed to happen. Wizards of the Coast, they apologized drastically, big time, and that's because a lot of people recognized, hey, this is a potential lawsuit going on, and Wizards of the Coast would, I'm sure, rather not get sued. And with Hasbro having all the PR nightmares, at least as far as the action figure community that I know of, and the D&D community that's going on, they probably would rather not have this fiasco happening either. And imagine, okay, check it out. Imagine if you're like Dan, Ryan, Dwight, Emily, maybe you're Lenny, or any of the people on the G.I. Joe or or Transformers, Power Rangers, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, any of the people on those teams just going, holy crap, guys, you sent the Pinkertons and we're the people that have to face the public. Thanks a lot, because here's what I'm honestly thinking about when it comes to Hasbro. As a corporation, yes, Hasbro is absolutely despicable, but I would be willing to bet that the 99.9th percentile of people at Hasbro were thinking to themselves, why the crap would you send the Pinkertons? Yeah, that means there's about 5 people in Hasbro that probably thought it was a good idea, including the person that made the call, but yeah, I have to think that the vast majority of people at Hasbro are thinking, dude, seriously, stop. So this is where I personally am at a crossroads. I already don't get a lot of Hasbro stuff. I think that almost all companies out there are making better figures than what Hasbro's doing right now. But just last week, I made a video talking about the unsung heroes at Hasbro, the people that are able to do good work and get that good work pushed through the process to the fans' hands in spite of all the roadblocks that corporate puts in front of them, that shareholders put in front of them, that licensors put in front of them. Those people I thought of as, and still think of, as the unsung heroes of Hasbro. Now, I'm not somebody that's a highly reactionary individual, but I have to say, when I was hearing about this Pinkerton stuff, I started thinking, I just need to sell all my Hasbro stuff, I need to get rid of it, I need to never order from Hasbro again. But then I thought about it a little more, and I cooled down a bit, and I thought, I can't imagine it's the vast majority of people at Hasbro that think this is a good idea, and I definitely can't imagine that the people behind the scenes trying to get us great figures like Wicket here are in agreement that the Pinkerton strong-arming agency is the way to go when it comes to handling this stuff. Other companies just say, hey, do you mind taking down the videos? And maybe that was attempted, that's unclear, I don't know. But most people would say, oh, absolutely, sure, why not? There's a company in England called the Games Workshop that somebody, I guess, got a hold of some stuff that they did early, and instead of sending some thugs over to their house, they said, man, well done, you painted those up really well. You got them a little early and all that stuff. Like I heard some of this on Displaying Model Behavior last night, and I know that I read some about it on one of the articles I checked out yesterday too. It's just an entirely different way of handling it, and it's much better for PR. I don't know about you guys. I would hate to be the PR person at Hasbro right now. Just I'd be like, nah, I quit, man. I'm out. I'm out. I'm not dealing with it. I would also do that if I were the social media people. I might do that if I were the people in front of the camera. I wouldn't want to deal with this. But back to my crossroads. This is, after all about me. I wanted to just stop altogether with Hasbro, but I thought, you know what? There are still people there working to do good work. As it is, I don't get much. I really don't. But the good stuff that they do, I'm gonna get, I think, in the future here. There's still that Iron Man. There's still Black Widow. There are the Power Rangers remastered figures, a couple droids. It's not that I'm getting a lot. It's hard for me because principally I look at it and I say Hasbro is this monolith that should not be supported anymore. But at the same time, there are people working at Hasbro that's how they make their living. So that's my crossroads. I would like to be able to sit back and say everybody at Hasbro is despicable, and because of that, I'm not going to collect anything from them ever again. I'm going to sell it all off, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, I don't believe that everyone at Hasbro is despicable. I believe there are genuinely great people there trying to turn out great stuff. And so I'm going to still continue to be as picky and choosy as I possibly can be, and even more picky and choosy because it's Hasbro. And I will continue to buy the stuff that I think is just above and beyond, while at the same time hoping, and this is to you designers, this is to all you unsung heroes I talked about last week, at the same time, I am hoping for you that you get out of there. Go find a gig that treats you well, that you know is going to treat the fan base well. Get out there and knock it out. Because if you're making figures like this and you're getting figures like this through corporate, you have real skills and you could handle working at another toy company. I promise you could do that. So yeah, there were my crossroads. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm going to tell you guys what you should be doing. It's just I didn't want to make a video yesterday because I knew I was a little heated up and a little fired up, and it wouldn't come off, I guess, as rational as I would have liked it to come off. So that's what I'm thinking here. One thing I will say, just to put a pin in it here, finish it off, there is absolutely zero reason the Pinkertons should be used by anyone, much less a toy company, much less a company that produces playing cards. Seriously, that's insanity. And now, for the slightly lighter parts, the more strategic part, one part that I feel a little more comfortable talking about. In yesterday's short on YouTube and all over social media, I posted as well, I talked about what the possible rationale were for Hasbro and Mattel's partnership. And one of the things I talked about was maybe Mattel is finally getting ready to just sell itself over to Hasbro. And I was listening to the 3POA podcast last night, and Bobby Valla was talking about how Hasbro doesn't have the money to do that. So we're going to knock that one down. I mean, he's going to know more than I am about what's going on over there. But there still remains one thing that I'm thinking hardcore. One of the things that I brought up yesterday. And that is Hasbro and Mattel are in a defensive position. Always follow the money. And what I'm thinking is happening here is that there are so many great toy companies that are not Hasbro and Mattel now. There is Jada Toys, there's McFarlane Toys, there's NECA, there's Valaverse, there's everybody across the ocean like Mofex, SH Figuarts, Kyoto, there's the third-party companies, there's Joy Toy, there's all the third-party Transformers makers. And that's not naming half of them. There's Spiro Toys here back in the US. There's all kinds of companies, and if I forgot you, I certainly apologize. I know you guys are working very hard, and I know there's tons of them. Jazzwares, Jakks Pacific. The point here is there's all these toy companies, and they're all making action figures. And while Mattel and Hasbro are in all kinds of segments, I think the last I read is Hasbro actually makes 16 different toy segments, like board games, dolls, action figures, that kind of thing. There are enough action figure companies that are encroaching on Hasbro and Mattel's market share that at this point, because it seems difficult for them to come up with newer stuff, because, as Michael at Retroblasting does bring up, and he's completely right, the more corporate a company is, the more, I suppose, risk averse and the less able to create they are. So what they're thinking is, okay, we've wrung out all the IP we've got. Now let's see what happens if we combine them. And strategically, I don't see that that's a big moneymaker. I honestly think that for both companies, keep yourselves separate. And I think that the right way to go about this is you loosen the purse strings on the designers. You decide that maybe you're going to cut your profit margin just a little bit so that the fans can start being brought slowly back on board, at least as far as the action figure community. And remember, I'm mostly talking action figures here. I don't know about the other 15 segments. Maybe there's a lot of companies encroaching on those as well. But you loosen the purse strings, you let your designers do what they do, you let them come up with new ideas that can appeal to more people than people in their, I guess, average probably 40s, honestly, because if they're going to survive, they need to be doing things for the kids. They have to. And then, and this is the hard part, you try and create a company culture that people aren't scared to death they're going to get fired from. You make something so that people feel comfortable, and believe it or not, you want people to be comfortable being able to make mistakes. And I think that's a far better idea. Here's the problem with that idea, of course. Because they're corporations serving too many masters. They're serving licensors and they're serving shareholders, which basically are two added degrees of middle management. They're not going to be able to cut down on their profit margin all that much, because then you've got everybody else. They're going to have to give much more of their percentage to these licensors. And something else that I wish Lucasfilm and Marvel understood is their brands aren't as universally loved as they used to be. Used to be that they could do almost no wrong, and since Disney has taken over, I don't know that I'd say they're dividing anybody. I don't want to get that crazy with the speech, but people aren't as 100% in on everything they're doing as they used to be, which means the value of those IPs has gone down, which means that Hasbro should be in a good position to look at them and say, guys, the value's not there for us so much anymore. We want to pay a little less in royalties. I don't know that that happens, but there's a lot of different things at play there for them to make my ideas work. The shareholders have to be told, hey, you're not going to make as much money for a while, so we can try and build back a customer base. And they're not going to like that. So every idea I've got leads to the same conclusion, which is possibly that Hasbro and likely Mattel, they're both the Titanic, and they've already hit the iceberg, and it's just now that we're starting to see them sink. I mean, because truly, I don't see strategically how a partnership is going to help them make any more money. But like I said, there are a lot of other segments, and I'm just concentrating on action figures. Maybe there's a lot more money that can be made in those segments by partnering, but even then, I feel like you're watering down the brands, and I don't know that that's a good idea. But that's enough of the business talk. These are the videos I don't like to make so much, but I do think they're important to make. I do think people need to know what's going on. I think we don't want to just be blind about all this stuff that's happening, because I don't think that, I think that we allow too much from corporations. And I think just because they're corporations doesn't mean that they're they're not necessarily evil, but they're definitely not good. So I don't know. I don't know what the point of that last part was, to be honest. It's frustrating. It's hard to wrap your head around. These people are custodians of franchises we all know and love, and a lot of times we feel like they're not taking those franchises seriously, and that's really bothersome. And it's probably bothersome for the people that work for the companies that are creating the product as well, because a lot of them are fans, so it's got to be frustrating for them. But that's all I got. So, folks, leave a comment below and let me know, what are you thinking about these two topics? What do you think of the merger? What do you think of Wizards of the Coast sending in the Pinkertons? Still seems a little crazy to me, but yeah, that's all I got for this one. So, as always, thanks a lot for taking the time to check out the video. It's your time that you're spending with this guy, and I certainly appreciate it. So, until next time, have fun and happy snapping. See ya.